This is us on our first podcast, Foxy and Faith, Jerry
Foxy.
and Damon, or Faith and Foxy. Either way, it's good with me.
Right. Thanks for joining us on the Foxy and Faith podcast, where worlds of finance and faith intersect. We have Sir Damon Hart and Sir Jerence Bryson. Damon is of Foxy Homebuyer. He's the Foxy Homebuyer, and I am the pastor of a small rural church in South Georgia, and Damon is an investor out in California. And so we are talking to discuss the worlds of investment and finance and the worlds of faith and how we interweave them into our daily lives.
Sure.
That was my,
But
it wasn't very short.
it was, yeah, but it's great because now we can start talking about, like how do these two guys get together, right? I mean, like, wouldn't everybody want to know how we met each other? It was through real estate, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely it was. Absolutely it was.
Well, I
first time I saw
remember.
you was at, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say I remember when it was Jason Gaston. He had a meetup, and I remember you just coming in there, and just like you were just like bright eyed, and that was my first time at the meetup too. You were just bright eyed, and you were just like a sponge of wanting to take up all the info. And I remember you saying something like, "Hey man, you do real estate," and I was like, "Yeah," and you just nonstop peppered me with questions. Because you were
That
just so
like
interested. Yeah. yeah. But it was cool, man, because we got to know each other. And from there we just kept talking, man. And you kept showing up. And I went to a few of those things too. Jason, obviously he's passed away now, but that was a good group though, man, wasn't it? He had a nice little thing.
Well, that was a good group. I made I think I want to say all the money that I've made, which I haven't made, I'm not bragging or anything like that, but I think all the money that I made in real estate was from connections I met in that room.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, it's
for me.
No, he had a pretty active group. I remember, some good things came out of there, like some lenders and stuff. But I mean, that's kind of how it all came. And what's interesting, if I remember right, Jason was pretty much like a guy of faith too. He really believed in, in his spirituality and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of how we ended up here, man, because like we talk all the time, when we do talk, and I was just like, it's like a calling, to have us get on this thing finally and just start talking about it. Because we're saying the worlds intersect for us, but how many people do you know that are taking that leap, right? Taking the leap into doing something different.
Right.
And it's going to take some faith, and most of that leap that you're taking is financial, that's what I think.
Sure. I agree with you. It's both financial and it is what I would call spiritual, because there is so much. Okay, the book that you recommended, I just finished the other day, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Okay, yep. Amazing book. Yep. It's so inspirational. I mean, I don't think I've been as inspired by a book since I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, just the same like impact, or a John Maxwell book, just awesome book. But from my own personal experience, my own journey, so much of what he says in the book about your impressions of money and how you perceive money, all of this stuff becomes embedded in you when you're young, and the people that you grow up with, those attitudes, it's like an echo chamber. It just constantly echoes the same thing. So if you're around people that have a negative perception or negative view of money, because the environment that you're in usually wins you over, it's just natural for you to have a negative perception of money. And so I'm 40. And so most of my life, having this negative perception of money crosses over into my faith, to where if I have a lot of money, or if I acquire a lot of money, I must be doing something bad. Right.
Yep.
And so to it's taken years. I mean, so when did we meet? I'm trying to remember what year that was.
So you did. How old is your oldest son? How old is B?
He's 9.
He's 9. So yeah. It had to be before he was even born, because he wasn't born back then, I don't think. Or maybe he was really young. Had to be before then, because we were living in it could have been like either right before he was born, like
right,
or right after. And the reason I say that is because we lived in like, Riverview at the time. And we haven't been in Riverview for dang near 10 years easily. So it could be that long.
So I'm thinking it was probably like right after he was born. He wasn't yet 1 year old.
Okay.
So it was 2014-ish. That's what sounds about right to me. 2014. Okay.
Yeah,
so somewhere in there.
You're better dates than I don't remember much. Yeah, for sure. But go ahead.
But so even at that time, you know, where I am now mentally and spiritually with money, I am so far in a more positive place than I was when I knew you back when we first met in 2014. That, you know, it really takes a long time for people. I think that's why some people they won't, when it comes to the things that they're ingrained with, like he talks about in the book, they won't ever leave that comfortable space because they're comfortable with having a negative perception of money. And so, and it's just this,
well, dude, you know, I could tell you a personal story. Like I personally didn't even, you know, like when I probably got about 18, 19, I decided like, okay, I want to go and I want to, you know, start a business and I want to, you know, earn really big money. And yeah, for whatever it was worth, nobody in my family was making big money, but everybody worked and had a job. I'm not uncommon, right? I'm sure a lot of people had the same story. But I remember, man, I remember going to school and I went and I worked and I worked at a bank, a community bank up in like rural Pennsylvania. And I worked at this bank. And I remember I worked in the accounting department because I was an accounting major. And I remember working in this bank. And the thing that blew my mind, I used to have to pay the bills. So I would look and I would say, man, I would look at the American Express bills and I would say, what the frig? These guys are dropping $20,000 a month on their American Express. I'm like, where are they getting all this money from? And then you would see them and they look like regular, you know, guys in suits, but they would spend like $20,000 on the card, or they would give this to charity. And I said, this gotta be doing, and I'm like, this gotta be doing something that I'm not doing right, because, you know, I saw what the CFO was making. I saw what his VP was making. I'm like, these guys aren't making that much money, but the people that owned it, the bankers, they were doing pretty good. So I was like, man, there's got to be something else about money that I don't know. And it wasn't until like I read that book that I felt like it kind of put things in perspective about there's nothing really you can do about it. Like, it's just awareness. Like, if you grew up around people that had money or had a positive outlook on money, you're going to probably end up rich. It's just the way it is.
Sure.
Now, conversely, if you don't, like, you're probably going to end up poor, and you won't know no matter what until you actually pay attention to it and start doing some work at it. And that was the thing. I think that's the thing that I never really considered. I just thought if I just worked harder, it would happen. And that's not the case.
Right. That is not the case.
Hard work is not, you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the guys who dig ditches with shovels, that's hard work. The The guys who work in chicken houses and chicken plants, that's hard work. That doesn't mean that they're going to be wealthy.
No.
And I, you know, the first, I think I was 22 or 23, the first time a financial nugget made it into my world. I was doing metal roofing, you know, as a job.
You're a roofer?
Oh my God. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. I know. It's surprising, right?
I know. No, roofers, they do all right. There's some roofers that kill it.
Sure. If yeah, like for the guy that owned the business, yeah, I'm sure he was making a killing. But
Okay.
I was probably making maybe $12 an hour, and I'm 22. I'm broke. You know, I have all these. I just wanted to marry this girl that I was with and all this stuff. You know, and I didn't have any direction. But my cousin was my foreman, and he's the one who got me the job. And he was telling me, he said, and he was the guy who owned the business told him this, and this was the little adage. I'm sure you've heard it, but it was a rich man gave a poor man or a rich man and a poor man met together. The rich man gave the poor man all his money, and they go their separate ways. A year later, they come back. The rich man is rich again, and the poor man is poor again.
Wow.
And that was it. And that was the first time that I really considered, like, because I had to think about it, because I'm like, what's the riddle here? What? I started thinking about, why would the rich guy be rich again, and why would the poor guy be poor again? And then over time, I was like, oh, I get it. It makes sense. The rich guy knows how to get rich, and he knows how to stay rich. The poor guy has no clue what to do with the money that he's been given. He hasn't earned it. He hasn't worked up to it. Those paths, he has not created those paths in his mind. So it's just like it's a field full of tall grass, and there's no trails been treaded out through there in his mind. So he has no idea what to do. He blows it, and he's broke again. And the more I've thought about that in almost 20 years, the more it's true. And it's like, okay, so effectively, I'm the poor guy. If a rich man gave me all his money today, I would be broke probably in a year or so, because I don't know how to keep it. I don't know how to make it grow. You know, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Just like those people that they win the lottery and they're broke in so many years. And it's, you know, people are like, oh, they're so stupid. That's so dumb. It's like, what are they supposed to do with it? They don't know.
They don't know. They don't know. Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know. Right.
Yeah.
So
that
was the first nugget.
And that's pretty deep, man, because like when I hear something like that, you know, there's a lot of stuff floating around. I mean, I just see like so many people kind of lost, and me being one of them. And I'm not, like, I wouldn't say I'm out of the woods just yet. I mean, you know, like my business probably did the most businesses done in ever, right? But I still see those same things, like those same stories or those same situations that pop up, like having highs and then lows, you know, like growing up, you know, there were times when we had plenty and there were times when we were down the minimum, and I make a better income than most people, but it's still like those things still happen, those peaks and valleys. And I'm just like, man, is there a way that, like, why? I ask myself why, right? Like, why is this keep happening to me? And it's a repeat, like a story keeps going over and over. And I can't think of anything else, but like, yeah, man, like no matter what you do, like you said, try harder or work harder. Right. It's got to be something else up here, because, you know, like I'm not an idiot. I'm Foxy, for God's sakes, right? I'm pretty smart. I'm not a genius, but yeah, I figure stuff out pretty good. But and I feel like there's so many of us that are in there, and I see it even with with our son. It's like, I want to give him, that's the thing where I think it hits home for me as a parent. Like, you want to give your kids the best, right? So you don't want to lead them in a position where, because they're modeling you. So I don't want him to be like, hey, yeah, it's all peaks and valleys. Like, you want it to be up and to the right. You know what I mean? And that's what I look at. I don't know if you ever felt like that too, man. Like, did you ever feel like, yeah, like you want your kids to have it way better than? Of course you did. What am I talking about? Of course,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And go ahead.
No, that was it. But like, just using that as the example, like, don't you want to have like that? I don't know, like, okay, whatever you experienced as a kid, wouldn't you hope that they skip all of that and just go to something that's, more sustainable, positive, growth-minded? Don't you want to instill that on your kids now, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a comedian. I can't remember who it was, but he was making a joke about how somebody said they wouldn't go back and change anything because it's made them who they are today. He goes, He goes, I would. He says, I fell down a flight of stairs one time. That wasn't any fun.
You would change that shit.
But
Hell
yeah. There's plenty of pitfalls. There's plenty of pitfalls that I want to effectively, and maybe, and I haven't really thought this out. It just kind of came to me. You know how like back in the movies and the cartoons in the old days where a guy is courting a girl and they come across a mud puddle and he takes his jacket off so she can step on his jacket. They could just go around it, right? But this it's the romance of it is that this is how much I love you. I'm going to lay down my jacket and you can walk over. Us fathers, we essentially, the mistakes that we made in our youth and growing up, that was us kind of laying ourselves down in the mud puddles so that effectively our kids can step on us instead of into the mud puddle. Yeah. But we have to give them that guidance, right? And so kind of going back to the thing, you don't know what you don't know. It's like, how am I gonna point my child? I saw a video just yesterday, and I don't know who was doing the talking because it was all like overdubbed or whatever, but the guy in the video said, your kid's going to figure you out one day. And he says, there's a mom or somebody saying to their kid, you could be anything, you could do anything. And then they're going to eventually say, well, why haven't you? If you're telling me I can do anything, why are you unhappy or why are you dissatisfied with this or with that? And so, and that's the reality. I knew that before my son was born, that there are going to be some hard truths discovered about me. And I have to own that. I have to say, look, son, this is where I failed and this is where I'm trying to improve it. And because I got two sons, obviously, but when they become a man, I am going to have a talk with them about the places where I know that I've messed up and I couldn't fix it, or I wasn't able to fix it, or I didn't have enough time to show them what it was that I was trying to get them to see or trying to get there. It's like, look, guys, this was my journey. I got to this point. I want you to see this point and I want you to exceed where I've been, and I want you to get to the promised land, right? Like in the Bible, Moses, he spent 40 years leading the children of Israel through the wilderness. And that was not a mistake. It wasn't like he didn't know where he was going. That was basically a death sentence to the people that didn't believe. They didn't believe God. So he said, you guys can't go into the promised land. So he made sure that they wandered the wilderness for 40 years so that people that were 20 and over that rebelled would die in the wilderness. But now Moses made a mistake while he was out there in the wilderness. And God said, okay, Moses, you can't go in either. I'm going to let you see it, but you're not going to get to go in. Okay. So there may be some things, and hopefully finances is not one of them. Hopefully, while I still have young sons, I am going to conquer this, right? And I am going to reach goals that I haven't yet reached. And I want to be able to go in there with them. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to say, guys, your mom and your dad are at a place that we've never been financially, by the grace of God and by his help, here we are. Yeah. This is how we got here, and this is how you're going to get there. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to do it for them. The leg up that I want to give my sons is the example in myself. I did it. You can do it too. And the wisdom of this is how you do it. What I don't want to do is say, here it all is. Because once again, it goes back to the poor man. If they don't know how to value it, then they won't appreciate it and they won't keep it. And then I would have just ruined their life probably.
Yeah. So it's fun. While you were saying a lot of your stuff, you have younger boys. So I remember having similar thoughts when Kassan was a little bit younger. And I would tell you, man, and I made that decision back then, and it seems like it's paid off. Just seeing the young man that he is. It's like I always try to tell him, here's, I led by example, and he saw me fail. Right. And like when kids see you fail, that just reinforces to them that, you know what, you're human. Like it's okay to fail, but what do you do after the failure? And then also like the thing that I see with him now, as he's starting his business, he's done some work with me and he's had some other adventures and stuff like that. But now he's starting his own business now. like I see it now in him, it's like, you know, all I have to do is point back to like, yeah, like when I'm telling you, I can give you the best I can. You can do whatever you feel, but guess what? It all takes some effort. And guess what? If you just keep moving forward on the path, like you're gonna make it. Like, you know, one of the like I don't know if I ever told you this, but like one day I'm gonna write a book, and I tell people like I don't know the title just yet, but the book is pretty much centered around just like the whole I don't know what you want to call it, metaphor of driving. And I remember seeing something one time like really profound, and I felt like I was Socrates almost, right? I was in a philosophy class in college, and I was sitting there and I said, you know, life is like driving a car. If you're always looking in the rearview mirror, you can't see where you're going. I don't know if it was on a bumper sticker before. I don't know where I heard it, but like it just came down from the man, you know, and I dropped it. And everybody looked at me like, who is this guy? Is he a rapper? Like, you know, like everybody in class looked at me like it was the hottest shit I ever heard. But the thing that I was thinking, man, is just like, you know, we don't have all the answers, and I don't think we're supposed to. And it's okay. Amen. It's okay if you don't. Like, it's okay if we grew up and our parents didn't have that exposure to it. Now we have an opportunity and awareness. We get exposure to it, and we expose our kids to it. Like, that's okay. That's all right. There's no guilt around that. There's no shortcomings. So
absolutely.
Your boys will be good, man. And they're good looking.
I appreciate that.
Good looking kids. Hey, good looking kids don't they get by. They get by. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
they do. Yeah, and he's a surfer to boot. I mean, come on, it's making it unfair for the rest of us, all right? Don't be so good at everything, okay?
I know. But I used to tell him that. I used to tell him that, Jerry, when he was a little kid. I would always say, I tell him that now. I'm like, why are you so good at everything? It's like it's just constant reconditioning. And you said, you remember we talked about that? Yeah. Another good one, right?
Forming questions.
Yeah. Another good one. Yeah.
Another good one.
I feel like if you're watching this podcast, you're getting some good stuff from two guys that have been hanging out forever and I don't know if this is a word, but we theorized, right? We theorized this stuff several times over the years, you know, and this is now the metamorphosis, or like the material expression of it finally, you know.
This feels good.
Man. This feels right.
It does.
Feels right, Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, I needed you to give me that little push. I needed you to. No, it was a gentle shove.
A nudge.
A nudge. There you go. It's a gentle nudging. But I needed it. I needed it because you know, it's kind of like going back to the book, the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And the thing with that book, it seems like it's like I've heard a lot of what is in there from several different places. So it's like it's reverberating back to me truths that I've heard, and it's like it's finally like clicking. So it's like when you came to me with this recommendation for the book, it's like at the perfect time of like my mental, you know, my mental life, my emotional life, my spiritual life. God has got me in a place, you know, where mentally and emotionally and financially, I don't know if it's just maturity or what, I don't know, but it's just the right time. And so I'm gearing myself towards doing things that I haven't before in a way where I'm still balancing. I've got to balance family, I got to balance church, and I've got to balance my day job. Right. But the way that I feel like God has got things set up for me right now, I can do these things, you know, like I said, every night at 7:00, Monday through Friday, we're reading the Bible for like a half an hour, however long it takes. And then it's like, you're like, well, let's do this podcast. I'm thinking to myself, am I going to have time? Am I, you know, and I started thinking of all these excuses and reasons why not, or why to do it.
Yep.
And while I was thinking, you're like, hey, are we going to do this or not? I was like, yes, absolutely, Damon. Yes. I needed you to.
I love it.
I needed you to
buddy, you're welcome. Just so you know, like, it's definitely, and this is where the faith comes in. I could make all the logical things, reasons up in my head, and I could tell them, but I know there's something when you have that feeling, and it's just truth, it's honesty, it's real. When that happens, I have learned, anytime I've listened to that thing, it's worked out. Now, is it always easy in the process? No, right?
No.
When the first time I met my wife, I knew like she was it. The same when you met Laura, right? Like you knew.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as time goes on, like things, it takes work. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but you knew right then and there. So that's how I felt about this thing. And, it's all inside of like, I feel like I can speak for this personally, but I could also say the same for you. You have a lot of great things to share with people. And because we're in a technology and we're in a space age, like we should be sharing all this stuff with more people. Like, yeah, I know I'm cool, and I know I'm amazing, and I know you are too. But guess what? If it's only the two of us talking, well, there's probably somebody else out there that could use the value to hear what we have to say. We got a lot to say, man.
That's amazing. It's amazing because, and I agree with you. And it's like it's one of those things. It's like going back to mindsets and what's ingrained in you from youth and stuff. I don't know where it came from. My parents loved me. I know that, but I don't know why I had such a low self-image, and it's not image is not the most important thing, but the value. There was like, it's like an empty cup. It's like, and there's value that, and here's where it gets kind of dicey, because some of this stuff is, I don't know, would you say it's like hype when people are like, oh, you've got to love yourself, you got to have all this self-esteem? It's like, well, slow down, chief. Not, it doesn't always pay to just sit around and look in the mirror and be in love with yourself. All right. I know that's kind of an extreme, but at the same time.
Wait a minute. It's not.
Oh, we have a disagreement?
Dude.
Well,
I'm the total opposite, man. Because there was a time where I was loved tremendously, growing up. But like, I think just the way that life is set up sometimes, not many people have cheerleaders. It's just the way it is. And I'm a big proponent of, if you're not cheering yourself on 100%, and we talk about some faith and having that rain down on you. Like, if you don't have those two things, it's going to be really tough, because guess what? You turn on the news, they're telling you everything is going to go wrong, or what you're going to catch. You don't have enough of this. You're ugly. You're fat. Sure. You know what I mean? There's so many. So why not? I wake up in the morning, I look myself in the mirror, and I tell myself a handful of things. Hey, why are we doing this today? Why are you so amazing? Why are you like, I do it because that's what it takes. Because when I first wake up in the morning, guess what? I don't always feel like going to work out at 5 a.m. I just don't.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't feel like I don't
either.
I don't feel like waking up. So if I don't wake up my cheerleader like, hey man, you got this. Like, what else? So I think, I think just what your story is from what I'm hearing, and I please forgive me, I'm not like a psychologist or whatever, but buddy, I know you a long time. And I know sometimes it's like we think what we think we are, but guess what? It's all a story. It's a story, and we get to choose what we accept. If I'm going to believe a story, I'm going to at least believe a story that makes me look good, that makes me feel awesome. Because the other one around, I can hear that story from anybody. Everybody got a story about me. Some people don't even know me got a story about me. And it ain't always the best. So why not just write my own? And that served me more. That served me way better than it has anything else up until this point. So I'm gonna stick with that. I'm sticking with that.
Okay, so and that, like I said, this is one of those things where maybe I'm at a point in my life where I am able to receive something like that. Whereas whenever I was younger, I would just flat out reject it and just be like, no. You know what I'm saying? And it's like but it's there is value in that, because and it maybe some of this may be genetic for myself. My aunt, who has now passed away, but she had one of those DNA tests done, and in this process of this DNA findings, she had a genetic predisposition to
Yep.
not create as much B12 as, say, like a regular person, right?
Yep.
And so, and I didn't discover B12 until I was like 36 or something. And when I started to take B12, or maybe it was a little bit younger than that, 35, I started to take B12, man, life became different. I was like, wait a second. The negative track that's just always playing in my mind stopped. I mean, it just stopped. And I was like, oh, this is what life is like for everybody else. And I'm just now not just constantly self-talk, self-doubt, just playing over and over my mind. And it's a genetic thing. It's a, B12 it's a vitamin. So now I take like B12 and D3, and dude, I'm starting to think stronger thoughts, like what you're talking about. Those are strong thoughts.
Yeah.
Like to be able to zoom all the way out, and say, if I was a character in a story and I was writing the story, what would I want for the character? Because I'm the good guy in my story, right? You're the protagonist in your own story.
Always.
Okay. Well, then I want good things. If I get to write this thing, yeah, I want the good thing. I want the good options. I want the better options. And so, but from how do I reconcile? And this is where the questions and the struggle comes in for myself, and it always has.
Okay.
How do I reconcile what I want with my faith? Like, am I being greedy, or is this? And so thankfully, the Bible answers the question. But now here's the funny part. There are times when, okay, is there objective truth? Absolutely. Is there absolute truth? Absolutely. But how an individual interprets that objective truth is still somewhat subjective.
Subjective, 100%. 100%.
So there's a place where Jesus he's talking to this people. It's the Sermon on the Mount. And he says, how many of you, if your child asks you for bread, would you give him a rock instead? Or if he asks for fish to eat, would you give him a snake? He says, well, the answer is obviously nobody, because you love your kid. If your kid asks for bread, you want to give him bread, something to sustain him and bless him, right?
Right.
And then he goes on to say, he says, if you being evil, meaning the opposite of holy, if you being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father know how to give good gifts to his children effectively, right? And so it's like, okay, so you're telling me that God wants good things for me? Then why have I always kind of condemned myself to only bad things, or the bare minimum? What kind of thought process is that? That's it's like talking about somebody that it's like having somebody over in your house, and then you talk about them like they're not there. Like, that is it's incredibly rude. I think in a sense.
Yeah, but I don't know 100%. I haven't actually thought of that, but I will say that the first thing that came to my head when you asked that question about, well, why would you, if you want to give great, it was this other side. It's just, if you look at the world, we live in a world of duality, right? Like, we live in a world of positives and negatives, men and women, before we make up all the other genders, right? That's just me. But right, like, and then you have up and down, you have yin and yang, you have, over and under. Like, there's always an opposite side. And I think that sometimes we forget that you start wherever you start, right?
Sure,
but that doesn't necessarily mean where you finish. And that's what life is. Life is that that experience that each individual gets to live, and they get to express it however they want. And I think that's where you started, or I started, that's what makes your life that exciting. And look, nobody wants to hear a story. Does anyone give a shit about a story? Sorry if I'm cursing, but that's just how I get excited, right? Does anybody care about a story that there was a super successful, wealthy guy? He had super successful, wealthy kids, and they went on to be super successful and wealthy. Does anyone care about that story? Never, right? What do we love to hear about? The guy that
rags
started from nothing. Yeah, the rags to riches story. He started from absolutely nothing. He worked his way up. And what do we also like to hear? About the person that had it all and crumbled because you want the duality. So it's like, it's like, oh, well, it's all good. It's all good. You know, this is life. And that's what makes life exciting. So instead of wanting to figure out, I stopped asking myself and really trying to figure out why a lot of times things are the way they are.
Right. Sure.
I just stopped. Like, if you try, you're probably going to drive yourself nuts. And are you going to have the absolute answer? No, you're going to have a genuine idea. I've given up being that analytical about stuff. All I want to know is like, okay, well, what can I do about it? You know, what can I do? How can I affect it? You know, and just work with that. And hopefully, you know, with some persistence and with some faith and some consistency, I feel like that's always paid off for me, 100%. In all areas of my life, you know. I couldn't have had half the stuff I did without just showing up every day and doing my best. Couldn't have had anything, you know. But what I'm seeing now is as you go and you're like, okay, your eyes get a little bit brighter. You're like, okay, I got this figured out. Now what if I want to go to here? And then you just start looking and asking and getting out a little bit further. And then you surround yourself with people that might be a little bit further away from where you are, or they're beyond where you want to go and you want to get there. Again, if someone, you know, my car analogy, right? If you're down the road, if someone's been to that town before, if I'm driving, I'm like, hey, what's the fastest way to San Antonio? And I'm coming from Melbourne, Florida, you know, they're like, oh yeah, take this. I'm gonna use take this way because I'm from Texas, right? Take this way, come on over here, drive the 45 and Route 66. Yeah, I'm gonna trust that guy because he has a big hat on with cowboy boots and he talks with a Texas accent. And he said he's been there before. I might trust that guy. Sure. You know? Yeah. And that's the whole idea. Absolutely. So I think that's kind of what life, I don't know, man. Like that's what I see life to be for the most part. Like that's what we can expect. Just to live the experience and just the meaning of life is to live it, bro. To live it, as far as I'm concerned. That's what I think. Not that you asked, but sure. It just pours out of me sometimes. Just pours right out. Sure. Don't start this faucet, Jerry. So you know what? So here's the other thing. I want people to know that you know you are. You know you look very unassuming in the sense that like you're a peaceful man. You're a pastor. But do people know that you're the reason I got a gun? You're one of the reasons I got a gun. Do people know that? You're the first person to show me a piece, other than when I went to a public school in New York City. You're the second person on life that showed me a gun in real life and pulled it out. Do people know that about you?
No, I don't think so.
They do now. Pastor Jerry is packing, everybody. Pastor Jerry's packing.
Yeah.
Always on the hip. And thanks to him, I got a little. You know, that's a down south thing. If you're wondering, like, do people in the South really have guns? Yes, we do. Southern people have guns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm gonna venture to say most people that are not in big cities have guns.
In big,
all the red areas. People carry guns.
Dude, you're 100% because you know, like it's funny, you know, being here in Southern California, it's like, when I mention like I own a gun, people look at me like I'm crazy. But like, you know, you talk to people around here and they say, yeah, we go shooting every once in a while, but they complain. They're like, yeah, you can't have this many bullets, or you can't do like, you know, you can't shoot at this time. Like you can't shoot a certain type of weapon. I'm just like, hey man, like, all right, I get it. But this is kind of, you don't come to California to shoot your guns, basically. You come here for the mountains and the waves, you know. But
right.
Yeah. But I don't know. But I hear about more crazy stuff that happens here than a lot of other places. To be like back in Florida, I heard about Florida man, but he wasn't doing the stuff that I hear about out here. It's crazy. It's nuts.
California man.
Yeah, California man. And they never say California man. They don't say that. It's always Florida
Right.
man. It's weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot of California, there's a California guy doing weird stuff over here too, believe me.
Oh,
So
I believe you. I believe you. I
yeah.
believe you. So are you in a part of California? Is it rural or is it big city? You
No
know,
way,
what is it
baby.
like?
I don't do the big cities anymore. I lived in New York, so I
Nice.
don't do that no more. We live in a little beach town, and it's kind of from we live Oceanside. So like Oceanside used to be, I guess, like a military beach town, more middle class for a long time. Then it had like in the 80s and 90s, in the 2000s, had like a slide, like an economic kind of like a depression, if you will, kind of like a slow time,
Mm,
drugs, gangs, all that. And then now it's going
mm.
through like this huge gentrification and revitalization,
Wow.
boardwalking around. So it's becoming like, if you ask people in the town over, they're like, oh man, it's still not that nice. But I'm like, shit, I look around, I'm like, hey, we're on the beach and I don't see any
Yeah.
crimes. There's a couple homeless guys. Like, life is still pretty good,
Nice.
life is still
Very
pretty good.
nice.
Yeah. So we like it here, man. It's been fun. But I miss you, Florida. I miss you.
Uh,
If you're out there listening
uh,
to Florida, I'm coming back. Don't save a place for me. I'm coming back sooner than you think. Love you.
oh,
Love you,
Florida.
Florida. Yeah. How you like it up there in Georgia though? How you like it?
Loves
Like,
it.
oh, so you're not,
Loves
that's
it.
it for life. You think Moultrie's it forever?
Well, so where we live now, we're only an hour from Tallahassee, so
Right.
very close to the to the border between Florida and Georgia. Um, you know, and Tallahassee is a lot different than the rest of the state of Florida, or my experience of living inland.
Yeah. Okay.
In Central Florida, yeah,
How?
Tallahassee is
Like, I've never been to
well,
Tallahassee, to be honest. I've never been there.
well, it's pretty nice. Um, okay, the vibe is different. In Tampa, there is like this yeah, there's this vibe of the rat race, that
Yeah.
whole making money vibe. And here's what I didn't like about Tampa, from my experience. We lived in Brandon
Sure.
for years, but just that, like, people just typically aren't, like, you don't have that like southern hospitality where people are friendly and kind, and open doors for each other, and speak with respect to each other, and all that stuff. And when you get to Georgia, it's all different. Everybody is hospitable. You are expected to show respect, and to be courteous to everybody, at all times. And when you drive down the road, you wave at people you don't know. That's just being
Sure.
neighborly. Everybody's
Sure.
it's just I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So when you go into Tallahassee, the parts that we go into anyways, the northern part of Tallahassee, people are respectful and nice. It's a nice area. I wouldn't say necessarily affluent or anything like that, but like, you've got like a Trader Joe's, you got Whole Foods, you got just nice places where people typically treat each other with respect and courtesy. And
Sure.
so
Sure.
that has been my Tallahassee experience. There's a park there called McLean or something like that. It's a McLean Park, and it's just like a brick path, like a brick road, and you're walking, and it's a botanical garden, so there's just like flowers everywhere, and then you see the water, and it's great. It's a very nice vibe. It's almost like a family university vibe kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so our Tallahassee experience is quite lovely. Not that much different than Valdosta, Georgia. Um, just a night and day difference to the experience in Tampa. In Tampa, you know how it is. Your life is based around traffic patterns. Like, we're gonna
Yeah.
leave, spend so much time, and all that stuff. It wears away. At least at mine, it just wore my soul out, man. Just like being stuck in traffic and having a lot of things to do
Yeah.
every day for work.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy my inland experience.
In that experience. Well, that might be one thing that I love about the real estate business, that it pretty much afforded me this opportunity ever since I moved to Florida like 10 years ago. Because once technology started picking up and you could do everything on the phone, dude, I don't ever worry about traffic, ever.
Nice.
Because, you know, it's like when you're doing most of your stuff remotely, like I just don't think about traffic anymore because I know I can work my way around it. Like especially here, California, you think Florida's bad, dude. California's like 10 times because there's more people. Not even close, man. Like traffic for sure. Like I remember like 275 or something like that. Yeah, it's bad. But you get out here on the 5 after like 4 or 5 o'clock coming north, forget it. Like it's just bumper to bumper. But I've only seen that from a distance. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going south at that time because nobody's, you know, I'm going to a meeting down in San Diego kind of thing. Like I'm not sitting in that stuff. And you know, it's funny. Like we haven't had that type of lifestyle for a very long time, like having to deal with traffic or anything like that. I think better part of like, man, it's a long time, like longer than I can remember. And I'm super grateful because that was one of my intentions. Like I wanted to do a couple of things, was like, yo, I don't want to be sitting in traffic because I did that early on when I was working. And I don't want to, you know, I did not want to, you know, miss a lot of my kids growing up. And because I work here, I see them every day. I work with them, you know?
Right. That's great.
You know?
That's awesome.
I see him every day. I see him go to the beach. I see him come back. He comes home. Today he's doing cold calls. You know, he's to clients. I get to see it. I get to hear it. You know, I see my wife. She goes out. She comes back. She's cooking dinner. I see her cook dinner. It's like, that's been like my life for the last 8 years. Like, I've had that's pretty good. You know, so
that's awesome. That's great.
Stoked, man. Yeah, it's been great. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that people talk about with real estate that I probably didn't know getting into it is the amount of, there's so many benefits with real estate and just having a business in general. Like forget just like the real estate business, whatever it is, wholesaling or buying rentals or whatever. But just having a business in general or being a part of a business, there's so many incentives because you get to, once you get past the part where you're the only person, you're the solo entrepreneur. Once you get past that part, there's some leverage you could build in, and that's where you get to start, you know, building income and then start buying investments like real estate or other businesses or, you know, some hard assets that'll make you money, you know. But it's not a surprise that most people that are wealthy, they've either invested in and ran and owned businesses. They either been like the number 1 or number 2 person in those big businesses. And number 3, you know, they've also, you know, invested in real estate. Like you look anywhere. That's what the wealthiest people did. So, you know, I think that's kind of like, that's another thing. I don't know about you, man, but like growing up, it was always about like going out and working and getting a job and making something happen, right? Get money coming in, which is super important. But I don't know about you, but have you ever done that and you look around and you're just like, okay, we've been doing this for like 10 years, right? We've been doing this, get money, but like you look up at the end of 10 years like I did, and I didn't have shit to show for it.
Right.
I worked really hard and people knew me as the hustler or whatever going out there. I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't have anything to show for it. I didn't have any houses. Right. You know, I had a couple of vacations here and there, you know, maybe a newer car, a house, but nothing else to show for it. And I'm just like, dude, you know, what are you doing? Because if that's the case, right, you're never going to experience not working because the second you stop working, there's no money coming. Right?
That's it.
Crazy, but that one snuck by me for like 10 years of my adult life, 20s to 30s. And then by the time I got to like I'm 30 something, I got into my 30s, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I got to do something a little bit different. So instead of just working for people, let me start my own business. Then you start working your
Right.
own business, and that's like another thing, because when you're starting to work in your own business, you think it's a business, but really what it is a job. In the beginning, it's a job because you're trading time for your money. And there's nothing wrong with a job, but sometimes, especially in the beginning, sometimes you work in that job and you're not making the kind of money that you were making with the other thing. Maybe you had a job, you
Right.
had way less stress, and you were making just as much money at the end of the year.
Right.
So now you got a high pressure, low paying job, but you're a business owner. And then you're just like, oh man, like now that, that took me like another probably like 5-7 years to figure that one out. So now, I'm just like, whoa. Now it's all like, okay, here we are at business 101. You got a business, you got employees. Now you want to scale. And the only thing that I can think of is like, we're pretty good at what we do. It's just that nobody knows us. Like relative to the market, nobody knows who the heck we are. And I think if more people realize that, just look in the sea of attention with this amazing podcast. I'm going to profess this now and put this out in the universe. We're going to have this amazing podcast. But I tell you one thing, there's going to be 2 people that are definitely going to see this tomorrow. And that's going to be you and me. Other than that, we don't know who else. Right?
That's right.
So, but if we don't go out and keep sharing it, promoting it, and getting it out there and putting out consistent content, no one's going to ever hear our message other than the 2 of us. And that's the thing and that's the thing that I feel like I grossly underestimated as a business owner all these years. You gotta get more people to see your business, to hear about your business, to hear about your service, to get in your door. Because for a long time, I'm pretty good at what I do. And I don't know if I'm the best or the worst, but I know I can take you from A to Z in a transaction pretty consistently, 100%.
Sure.
But, do I do it enough to get to where I want to be? I would say I could do a better job of that. So, yeah, I don't know where that's kind of just like the things I think about, man. Like, like business is a beautiful thing, but I feel like it's grossly underestimated. Like, it's not super hard, but it's also not super easy either. It's like,
sure,
there's some mechanisms to it that you gotta really play by to make it. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. But I digress.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, and I just want to point this out.
Sure.
Are tumblers really just sippy cups for adults?
I feel like it's dang near close.
It's close, isn't it? The only thing it doesn't have that little part that sticks up. You know what I'm saying? Like where you put it doesn't have that. It goes in.
That'd be for babies. I got one of these here too. I don't know what you call it, but it's pretty much It's pretty much for just drinking whenever. So
see, that's more like a canteen to me. This is like a sippy cup. This is actually this is somewhere between a goblet and a sippy cup.
It's what, just because it's wide like that? How wide
it feels like a goblet, a medieval goblet.
Well, I don't know.
But it's got the protecting lid.
Maybe that's their thing. They want to give you that like medieval posh kind of vibe, but with a plastic top. So you're saying
medieval posh vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, that
like
is
2023.
That is charming.
No spills.
That is 10,000.
I didn't think of it. Ask the people that make it. Ask ask the people that made that thing. I have no idea.
What if we get ahead of the market and actually make a tumbler that looks like a goblet?
I mean,
but
yeah. Look, anybody out there, if you want to give us some advice on this, if you're watching this and you want to give us some advice on this tumbler idea, we're all ideas. We're doing some little market research. Okay.
Research.
Whoever catches on to this one.
Speaking of which, are you familiar with Chat GPT?
Of course.
The first question I asked this thing was, explain the meaning of life explain what is life in 5 words or less. This is what Chat GPT came back with. Existence with biological processes. 4 words explained what life is very accurately. Existence with biological processes. Color me impressed. Now, but
that was it.
Here's what, because I asked him to do it in 5 words or less, right?
Yeah.
But here's what was so funny though. It took it like 20 seconds to come up with that.
Yeah.
So it was like thinking. It was like, let me think about it for a second. 20 seconds later, it goes, existence with biological processes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this thing from now on. So, and I was asking it specific questions, and the answers it was giving me was amazing. Like gnarly. For one, one was like how to, it was a business question, right? Like how to scale, explain how to scale a business. And it came out with this info that was like, very reasonable, logical info. But there was one of the points that it made that I wasn't familiar with. And I said, okay, explain how to do this part, right? Like break that down in 25 words or less. And it will break it down. And it's just like, this is a tool. Because, when we're doing the intro, that's what I thought about was, it's like, if I take all our information, Foxy and Faith podcast and what we're about, all this, put in this chat GPT and say, create this intro for me in like 15 words, it will theoretically summarize the information I've given it and spit back out an intro.
For sure.
So maybe
maybe what? We're gonna get murdered. We're gonna get murdered.
No, because I asked that question too. I said, will AI destroy all humans within 10 years? And the response came back, that doesn't seem very likely. AI is used, and it says like AI is used to enhance the human experience, not to harm human beings. And it even talked about whoever is like overseeing it taking protective measures so that AI doesn't become harmful to humans. I was like, okay, I can roll with that for now. For now.
What are you gonna do? Argue with the computer?
Yeah, right? It's like, all right, you've got your principles.
Yeah, tired of you, man.
Okay.
Look. Yeah, like I totally, I totally love it as a tool. I use it pretty much like every day, if not every other day. Wow. I use it for like blog writing, if you get stuck on articles, stuff like that. I'm probably gonna use it right after this podcast. Here's the thing. I would like to be optimistic that it's only going to be for positive things, AI.
Sure. Right.
But I do know the nature, again, duality.
Right.
And I'd be crazy to think that something that powerful cannot be used to harm just as well as it is to help. You can't tell. Sure. So that's the part. And to me, it's, I don't ever think it's going to be the people that are, you're never going to have the harm come from the common folk, like the handful of people. It's going to be people that have the source. I don't know if those people are good, bad, or indifferent, but they have the power. So you kind of have a lot of leverage to do what you want. And that's that's just what this existence here is going to be, in my opinion. So
amazing. I'm blown away by it. I'm truly blown away by it.
Me too.
But maybe
how'd you hear about it?
What? I can't remember specifically if it was a podcast or if it was a video where someone was talking about it, but there's a lot of it now. People are really raving about it on YouTube, at least.
Yeah.
And it's free. You know, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to, I want to challenge it. Not challenge it like I challenge you to duel, but like I want to challenge, I want to test its abilities. Like, for example, is there something that I can do with it? With, you know, let's say I didn't go to school to be a writer. Okay. Well, let's say AI, write me a children's book with these parameters. And then can that actually be a tool or something that I can use to actually, you know, improve my life or the life of others, and, you know, be a blessing to my family, that kind of thing. You know, because Google can't do that. Google, you can't say, hey, Google, it's just a search engine, right?
Correct.
But this is this is a language thinking program. So that's all that was in my brain today. It was in my mind.
Dude. Yeah. It's the first couple of days, it's a mind blower. But yeah, let's put that out there, man. I mean, let's do it. Let's create something. We could even chat GPT the title or something for this podcast, right? Like just the promotion in it. We could definitely do that.
Right.
For sure.
Let's do that. Let's see what we come up with.
Cool. So what do we do? Because I'm running out of time, and I think we're coming up on like an hour. What do you think we should talk about for the next one? What do you think? Some ideas.
I think we just keep the conversation going. Let's pick back up with the AI tool. Let's just start from there. See what our experience was. If you want to try it, and I'll try it too, we'll see. We can compare. I mean, we can pick one if there's a good one, or if we don't like what came out, you know, we could. But that'd be kind of a fun test, I think. Right.
I could definitely mess with that, and then let's talk about. And then let's come back. I think I could come back with a story about just like a business story, and if you come back with a story or two about just something that we could bring that happened during the week in business. We could do it every Wednesday.
Sounds awesome.
How's that?
Let's do it, man.
So you bring one back with something that happened to you throughout the week, with church or something faith related, and we could talk business. And I guarantee, I'm gonna almost guess that we're gonna have some swapping. You know what I mean? Like some of your stuff is gonna be business, and mine is gonna be faith, and you're gonna have some faith in business. So we'll go back and forth.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
All right,
let's do it.
Sounds good, bro.
It, well, you have a great night, Damon. Yes, go ahead.
Sir Damon of now
Sir Damon of Oceanside. Sir Damon of Ocean. See, that's where this medieval stuff and the goblet stuff is coming.
That's what it is.
Sir Damon, you started.
I want to get a sword. I want to get a sword then. If we're gonna be medieval.
Hey, let's get some. We'll get some chainmail. We'll get some goblets. We'll get some swords, helmets. The whole setup, the whole shebang.
All right, I'm in. I don't know where to get all that stuff, but
it'll come to us.
Amazon.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm excited, man. Thank you for wanting to do this. This came from you now, so I want to give you all the credit for that. So thank you for having me.
It didn't come from me. I'm just the vessel. I wasn't sitting around like, man, I got to do this podcast because I don't talk like that. Number one, but you know what I'm saying. Hey man, hey, it's Stephen Hart. I got to do this podcast. No, it was just the man upstairs. The whatever you believe, people. We're non-denominational, by the way. Okay, Jerry's a man of a special faith, as am I. But we take all faithers on this podcast. We love all of your faith. Okay. Because we don't want to knock your faith. Stop it, Jerry.
No. Of course not. Of course not. No.
We love your faith.
We want to be inviting, but we always want to point people to God for sure.
There you go. That's it. That's the point. Yeah. So whatever you call them, we're not picking on. We're not select. We call them a certain thing. You call them whatever you want, or it, or she, but just know.
Don't call him she around me, because I'll.
Okay, around Jerry. Okay, don't call him. He's gonna point to the book. See, this is why we connect, because of the opposites. I don't know. God could be. It's just a power. I don't even know if God has genders, but that's just on me. That could be in another topic.
That could be on the topic.
All right. Fair enough. Till then, how do we close this thing out?
Outro music.
That sounds like elevator music.
It does sound like elevator music.
Hey,
there's this movie.
This is the Foxy and Faith podcast. We're getting out of here because your ass gotta get out. I have nothing else. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
It's awesome, man. Y'all have a good one. Thanks.
You too. Later, bro.
I'll see you later.
Bye.